It's Professor Cleary here with a video on you had to do your minor project 3 Photoshop lesson recap. So in Blackboard, you're gonna download the image files from the zip file. You can then come over here and click on this folder. They will show up in your Finder in your downloads. You can double click this to unzip the file. And inside, you're going to see 3 images that we're going to resize and build our photo illustration. So, in order to do that, we'll go to Photoshop, and I've already got it open. We'll go up top to File, Open. Then we're going to navigate to our Downloads folder. I already went there. Going to double click this. You'll click on one image and then hold the Shift key to select the other 2 and click Open. This will now open your images. Gonna bring these windows in. Okay, so we have 3 images. We have our background, our earth, and you can click up here and see all tabs, and then we have our dark galaxy background. So this will be our final background image. We don't need to touch it for anything. We can just size it to our, we're gonna use 10 inches for width, just for consistency and file size. So we'll just hit image size for that. Secondly, we'll go to our Earth image. And in order to move these around, the easiest thing is to just click the window and pull them out into their own individual windows. So we'll put the Earth image here. We're going to size it by going to image size. I'm going to make this, we certainly don't want 100 inches, so we're going to put 10 and click and make it 300 pixels per inch to be consistent with the resolution of our original background image. And we'll click OK. Then we can zoom in. The quickest way to do this is hit Command 0 or Control 0 if you're on a Windows machine to fit the content into the screen. So now we can see it a little better. We're going to go over, and what we need to do now is whenever you open an image like this with a solid background, it usually comes in with this layers palette of a background layer. If you don't see your layers palette, you can go up to Window, Layers, and it will pop it up. You can work there. And then we need to convert this to an actual layer, not a background layer. And we do that simply by double clicking on it. It's going to say create new layer, and we'll call it Earth. We'll click OK. And what this does is it converts it into an editable layer where you could put effects, you could change the opacity or transparency of it. And by removing the background, it allows you to create transparent effects. So our goal here is to remove the white background and make it a transparent background so we can just select our Earth. And I'm going to show you the best practice way to learn this using layer masks as opposed to just deleting the background layers. So in order to do that, we can use the Magic Wand tool, or you could also use, if you have a newer version, you can play with any of these and do the Object Select tool, which will now select the object, but that is if you wanted to try and select the Earth. So we'll just do the Magic Wand tool. And what this does is it looks at all the pixels of this image around it and sees how many it can select And since this is all white, it should grab the whole thing. So we'll just take our magic wand and click and make a selection of our background. So you'll see I have now have marching ants. I can zoom in here. I now have marching ants for my selected background. And so I want to remove this, but I'm going to use the layer mask function to do so. And in order to do that, I want to do what's called invert the selection. That means I'm going to tell Photoshop that I want to select the inverse by going to select inverse, and it is going to flip my selection to where just my Earth image is now selected. So this, let's go back. So now I have my marching ants just around that selection. So now I can easily remove my background by clicking on the layer in the layers palette and going down to the layers mask option. And by clicking this, it will add a black and white layer mask where black blocks any elements. That's why it's now transparent and you see this checkerboard. But you see the white center in the middle shows whatever is in that white. And you can do neat things with layer masks. If I get my brush tool and I have black here, I could paint that for some reason if I wanted to do a special effect, or maybe block this out to put some other artwork or type in. But the beauty of the layer mask is it did not destroy my image here. It just filled with black. So it's easy to fix that if I say, oh, I don't want to do that. I can go down to my color. I can use my switch foreground and background color. And so since we used the black to block any image from showing, we'll use the white to show it. And you can see if I go back here and click on my layer mask, you need to make sure it's selected so you're editing on it and not the image. You can go in and paint it and it'll show back through just like that. And see, I have not destroyed my underlying image. And when you are hours into a project, you can use the layer mask to preserve the original image, but make any edits and adjust them. So that is the benefit of this process versus just selecting it and hit the delete key. And in a situation like this, you could do that because there is enough contrast. But I want to teach you the best methods. So now we need to take our move tool and we need to click on the image we want to move. So we're going to move all of this into our background layer of space. And we do that simply by dragging and dropping. And now we see that I have the Earth in space. The layer came in with the layer mask. Everything's still preserved and editable. I can then, if I don't want to look at it, I can turn it off. I can turn off my background layer. So you get the idea there. So next, let's get our hand image. We need to resize it as well, like we did our Earth, to get all the sizes consistent because it's 18 inches at 300 pixels. So that would be really big. So we'll change that to 10. Click OK. And we're going to repeat the process. We're going to double click our background layer to give it a layer and call it hand. Hit OK. Come over to our magic wand tool. Click our white background layer. And this time we can easily, well, we know about the benefits of the layer masks. We could just hit delete. And you see there's no layer mask here. I've just permanently deleted the white background. And so that's forever gone. But I could undo that if I wanted. And I could do the same select inverse because I just want to get the selection of my hand and do my layer mask because that's the best way to do it. And click on that. It adds black everywhere except the selection I had. So my selection is white, it's showing through. And once again, I have a transparent background. So that's the easy way to do that. And then we just get our move tool like we did with our earth. And we can either, we have two ways we can do this. The first way, we just drug the image, but I could also just grab this layer and drag it into my background window of my galaxy up here and drop it. And you see it brought it in up here like that. And then I just use my move tool. And you see I have this bounding box, so I could just drag a corner to maybe make that a little smaller and have my hand in space. Let's go even a little smaller. Just drag a corner. Maybe move that down because we're gonna position that. And since it is the top layer, it is on top of the globe. So we can easily just rearrange our layers by pulling it down in between our background and our earth layer. Then we can switch layers here to the earth. You'll see my selection by the different shade of gray has the layer selected, and I'm working this border here tells you that I have my image selected. If I selected my layer mask, it would put the border here. So that's a good reference to see what piece of the image you're working on. And by default, it's keeping my bounding box, and I can make the earth a little smaller once again by just pulling it in there and then just use my move tool to position it like it's hovering in my hand in space. And I'm pretty pleased with my final image here. So now I would like to save this because let's say maybe I assigned you something else to take this image and put some text on it in the future. We want to save as because we don't want to save our over our original image. And we're going to call this our last name, first name, minor project 03. And we're going to save it as the Photoshop format, PSD, and it's going to say format Photoshop. We don't really care about our color profiles. We're not, that's insignificant. So, but what this does will preserve your layers and your edits like you have it right now and save a version of that. So then we can close our original images. I don't want to save it because I've got all my elements here. But now you need to turn this in, but it is a pretty large file size. So it's 17 megabytes when it's layered, actually 58. So what we want to do is save a copy of this again for turning it into Blackboard. So we go to File, Save a Copy. This gives us more image format options. We're going to change the name of this. And instead of PSD, we're going to come to the format and we're going to scroll down to JPEG and click Save. Then this is going to ask us what level of compression. You can just use this default. If you adjust this, it makes the file size smaller, but it affects the quality of your image. So anywhere between 10 to 12 is good. You can click OK. And now you have saved a copy. And when you go to your project that had the original files, you can click over here by date modified, and it'll show you your most recent. And you see our JPEG. That's what you're going to upload to Blackboard assignment. And then your Photoshop, you can save in case we do something else when maybe we'll take this and add some text effects. So I hope this helps you with your minor projects.